stablecoin bill all year. Officials appearing on Bloomberg throughout the process. It culminated in a signing ceremony at the White House on Friday.
This afternoon, we take a giant step to cement American dominance of global finance and crypto technology as we sign the landmark Genius Act into law. You've made our dollar look really good and strong and powerful. It's good for the dollar and it's good for the country.
And I think this would increase confidence in the industry. And I think that you would also see banks getting into the act. I think you'd see traditional financial players getting involved in it. And that's why the float is expected to grow from, call it roughly 250 billion to trillions of dollars.
I think could create at least $2 trillion in demand for Treasury bills.
So these are not securities, and it's the banking regulators who are going to be looking after them. And I think that's appropriate because of the role that stablecoins play, and I think will play in the future.
Under the Biden regime, it was really mostly just policy through prosecution. These folks were victims of overregulation. When we started, devising a plan of how we would solve this problem, we kind of looked at it in three phases. We said we're going to have a demolition phase, getting rid of the overregulation. Then we're going to have a construction phase, which is underway, and obviously we have one building that's been constructed here with stablecoin legislation, but we're heavily reliant on our colleagues up on the Hill to get this done. And then we have the implementation phase.
And now to the next step with legislation. Senate Republicans releasing today an initial discussion draft of the digital asset market structure legislation, building on the Clarity Act passed by the House last week. Let's bring in Nathan Dean from Bloomberg Intelligence. The Clarity Act is really the next step, isn't it? When it comes to crypto market structure, we're talking about now jurisdiction, who is going to be overseeing many of the most controversial parts of the crypto industry. How is this playing out?
Yeah, so this came from the Senate Banking Committee, and this is a discussion draft, which means more changes are coming, especially as the Senate Agricultural Committee gets their hands on this. Because remember, the Senate Banking Committee only has authority over securities. The Senate Ag Committee has authority over commodities. That's important because, a lot of people in the crypto world want to know, is this a security or is this a commodity? Now, the draft that came out today created a new class called an ancillary asset, and that essentially allows crypto companies and owners and issuers to go self-certify and say, look, we're not a security, therefore we don't have to follow securities rules. But this bill also does have a significant amount of disclosures and also Bank Secrecy Act and also anti-money laundering procedures that would also try and make sure that compliance requirements are certainly key for these companies that decide to move forward.
Nathan, a piece of crypto legislation signed by the president on Friday. We just told you about that. As far as the timeline looks on this specific piece of legislation, what are you telling clients right now?
Yeah, look, it's not great to issue a discussion draft a week before you go home for the August recess, but that's essentially what it is. It's just a draft. The Senate Banking Committee also put out a request for information at the same time, and so I'm sure a lot of the crypto folks are going to spend August recess responding to that. Now, come September, there's going to be a government funding fight, so you'll see some work done at the committee level, but I don't think you're going to see anybody really try and push this move forward until later in the year. We're telling clients that we don't think any of this can really come together until the first half of next year.
Nathan, really quickly here, do you think that it really makes sense for the CFTC to be taking on this much more of a role when it comes to crypto, or do you think that this is a product of how the SEC had been under Gary Gensler and the frustrations that the crypto community had with the SEC's what they call enforcement by regulation by enforcement?
Yeah, so the CFTC doesn't have authority over spot markets. So right now, if you're a commodity like Bitcoin, CFTC only has authority over fraud prevention. And a lot of the people in the crypto sector want to go to the CFTC because they have what's called principles-based regulation. It's a little bit easier and less onerous, in our opinion, than if you were with the SEC. So a lot of this still has to be played out. But I think at the end of the day, you are going to get a bill that defines what is a security and what is a commodity. And I think most of the crypto world will go to the commodity under the CFTC's jurisdiction.